medication or something to just, make you ease into family lifestyle at some point?
Okay, well, we are when you talk about facility management, talk about management of the built environment, management of people, institution of process, and use of technology. So technology has helped us in a very large way in helping us even run operations without necessarily being in the location. So we have operations that can be monitored remotely, but at every point in time, the idea is, or the rationale is that there has to be processes working or people on ground to attend to certain emergency situations. And we in the Dream Court Facility Company, we've had processes instituted. We have people who run on shifts. We have people who would definitely cover up when one or two persons are away. And by so doing, we've been able to manage a system that sees even people who are not facility managers in a particular location, because it is seen as a holistic activity. Such persons have knowledge of what is going on there without being facility managers. And if in the event that that facility manager for that particular location is not reachable or not available, we have capable hands who can always attend to problems. So that's how we've been able to manage the situation, work remotely, and capitalize or take advantage of the technology that is before us, and continue to sustain the operations. And then, of course,
the structure that you have put in place.
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. So what you're basically saying is have structure, collaborate with technology, and then people can actually have their life.
Exactly.
Yes, good. So I'd like to go a bit personal now. Tell us some of your bad days on this your amazing job. Some of the bad days, on your job at work, really.
Okay. It's really difficult to really pick out the very bad days, but one that really comes to mind was I think the 28th of November 2020. That was actually my wedding day. Ooh. And just you can imagine the look on my mother-in-law's face when just as I was about walking into the service, I got a notification on my phone that there was an issue. And instead of stepping into the church, I had to take a few minutes outside to quickly rectify. So the worry and the anxiety from everyone, is he changing his mind? Nothing they happen. What's going on? So I had to later calm down, calm people down, and say, oh no, there was no.
I was inside that hall.
Exactly.
I didn't know.
So it was just a case of, there was an issue somewhere, and of course, as a facility manager, irrespective of
what actually happened?
It was a distress call actually from one of my locations, informing me that there's been a power surge, and that had the tendency of affecting about 10 to 15 houses, if not arrested immediately. And of course, having that kind of situation on a weekend,
I was inside that hall.
Exactly, she was inside. But even my go-to engineer was inside the hall, my electrical engineer.
Oh,
so wow. You can imagine the anxiety even I felt on that particular morning. I stepped back from, instead of going into the church with my crew, I had to step back, started placing some calls around, try to get the engineers, try to get the technicians. And at some point, it got my mother-in-law worried, and she stepped out. I said, are you trying to change your mind? Please, you can't try such, because everybody is set. We are waiting for you to march in.
Oh my God.
We've already wasted so much time. So you still stalling the process. In fact, while she was talking, she didn't know I was still trying to solve some issues. So I just told her, Mom, don't worry. I will step in when I'm ready. So some of my friends came and met me. Amadi, what's the problem? Now you drag us come here. Now, not fall on our handle. So I received so many talks, but I just took the few minutes, 2-3 minutes, try to coordinate some of those things, and when I entered the hall. So it's about sacrificing your time, being there for people. So those are some of the bad days where, in a day where you're supposed to be fully happy, the distraction comes in, and you're thinking between if the issues have been resolved and how you will march to the dancing floor with your bride. But yet again, we put in place some of these processes, and we had some of the issues.
Did you eventually?
Eventually. Well,
march in and go and have that dance with your bride.
Well, actually, because I put in one or two.
With a smile on your face.
Well,
because I know you marched in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you handle that day?
Well,
were you distracted? Like I'm just hearing this, and I was in that hall, and I'm shocked.
Well, the smile was there, but not to the fullest, the way I would have probably, working or planning for a wedding, you probably plan how you smile, how you walk, how you dance. So all those rehearsals that were done were just forgotten on that particular day. Everything just left, and you just had to flow with the, with the whole situation. But luckily, we were able to arrest that situation, of course, with the team back end, who did an amazing job, had the temporary fix completed, and the permanent solution was, of course, activated in the following days. But generally, those are some of the things that can happen at work that tends to destabilize you. We had situations where you're driving through traffic. After spending about 2 or 3 hours in traffic, immediately you're just getting home, you're receiving a call that there's a problem, and you're like, what's this problem? Why didn't it just come up before I left? Why do you have to wait till I get home? So you have situations where in the middle of the night, you're picking up calls, you're walking about the house, you're pacing around. My wife would sometimes ask me, Oga, you don't go rest. And I'm like, if I don't do this now, I will not have better rest later. So it's better I stress myself now than get the rest later on than leave the job undone. So these are some of the challenges that come up, the bad days. Okay, you have a date planned out with your spouse. On a particular occasion, I remembered I paid for a movie. I just got to the cinema, and some of these distress calls, they just picked the wrong time to come in. I got to the cinema, bought my popcorn, and I was fully set to go in.
To dive into the
and
popcorn.
you just get a call that, oh, there's a breach somewhere, there's one issue there. You just like, what is this again? But of course, because that's what we have signed up for, we just have to make up for those days. So we overlook that pleasure at that material time. We go as far as satisfying our residents, and of course there will be other movies. There will be other movies for us to see eventually. So those challenges will come, those bad days will come up. There are days when you have put in everything in place, but for one reason or the other, something just goes wrong. You have done your servicing, you have changed the media for the water plants, but for some reason, something doesn't just work.
It just backflushes.
Exactly. It's maybe there are sediments. Of course, we who live in Lekki, you have situations of water discoloration, high iron content in the water and all that. So you have instituted your process. You have done the backwashing, you have done the necessary filtration, you've added the necessary chemicals and all that. But for some reason, you just discover that the iron content from nowhere just increases, and it alters the whole filtration process. You have to start again. So it's those kind of situations tend to dampen your morale as a facility manager, and you're like, the same as I'll leave this job and go into business. But of course, every business, every challenge, every career, every career,
people need to, they go anywhere.
Honestly, so every career has its challenges, and as they come, we try and improve on them and also learn on them. It's very critical, because some of these things, based on experience and based on antecedents, when you learn on them and you see it follows a particular trend, then you can avoid a recurrence. So when it occurs that way, while fixing it, take down some notes, learn on it, and improve on it. And by so doing, you will have situations where those things will not take you by surprise.
Amazing, amazing. Wow. On your wedding day. Amazing. So let's not just talk about the bad days. Okay. Can you tell us, some of the good days that you've had at work?
Okay. Well,
when you just look back and you're like, we did that.
Well, I think
and you have that Joe moment.
Exactly.
We did it, Joe.
Well, I think there is nothing as rewarding and fulfilling as putting a smile on someone's face. The mere fact that you drive into the estates and someone says, that's Mr. Steve. He helped me resolve my roof leakage issue. He helped me stabilize my complaints as regards waste management and all. It just gives you that self-fulfillment, and it just makes up for the very bad days where you're downcast and you're looking for ways to escape. I had a situation where on a particular day, I had gone into a client's house to fix an issue, and when I got there initially, because of the outrage of the client, he locked me in the house, and he went out.
He locked you inside the house.
I think that I should have mentioned that part
as
of
your birthday. Oh my God!
He locked me inside.
Wow.
And said, that issue must be resolved before. So I was thinking it was a joke actually. But when I went with my artisans and all that, and I got the issue resolved, and I was about leaving, and the door was locked, and I called him. God, what's the problem? He said, since you refuse to do this, I have gone to VI to pick up something, and I locked the door to make sure that it is completed before, because I know you might probably just come, put in your guys there and leave. And I said, no, that's not right. He said, okay, I'm coming. So I had to wait till about 7 p.m. But the good part is when he came back, he apologized, and eventually we became very good friends. Some of those relationships established goes beyond just the facility. You have people who call you, you become very personal with them, you are at home with them, people who see you and they are willing to assist you, they are willing to listen to you.
Become part of the network.
They become part of the network, exactly. So those are some of the rewards we look forward to, and we hope to achieve, of course, with all residents. Because in all honesty, when the connection is not there, there is no way you can manage them. When you don't have a personal connection with them, there is no way you can feel or you can actually
connect with their pain.
And exactly. So there is that need for you to establish this connection with them. And once you establish that connection, that's about a win-win for you and the resident as well. And you get them to cooperate more, you get them to complain less, you get them to also see you and see reasons as to why you
as
do
their
exactly,
collaborator, not their enemy,
maybe antagonist and all. So once you establish that kind of relationship with them, then they also see the bigger picture of you being a partner in the system, and they want to do things with you. When there are problems, they bring the problems to the table, they want to dialogue about it. So rather than complaining, they try to even profile solutions, and everyone moves together and achieves the goal at the end.
So those days make up for the bad days.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well done, Steve. Well done.
Thank you very much.
I want to know, really, that day, did your wife notice at the whole, the whole distress? I'm sure maybe at some point you would have spoken to her about it. How does she react to some of these things? And then, of course, you talked about the popcorn scene. You had taken her out for a date. She had bought popcorn and, couldn't just wait to snuggle and see a movie with her husband. And then, of course, facility management people carry their pramak. So for all those days, how does she react? How do you eventually make up for those days for her?
Okay.
Or to her?
It's about understanding, actually. For the wedding day scene, she was actually in the vehicle, and she saw me pacing around, and she could just tell from her instincts that it's about work issue, and she sent one of her how do they call them? Is it the groom's
bridesmaids?
The bridesmaids.
Can you imagine?
So she sent one of her bridesmaids to ask me what the issue is, and I quickly explained to her, and she understood and just told me to try as much as possible not to allow it affect the other proceedings of the day. So she's quite good with it. For the popcorn scene where we had to probably skip that movie that day, and we rescheduled, and I had to make up, of course, with a little package, a little gifts here and there, and we understand ourselves in that regard. She knows the requirements of the job. She knows what I'm expected to do at every point in time. So all I do is try as much as possible to update her so that she's not taken by surprise when some of this information or when some of these things happen. And for the very free days, so it's not like these issues always occur back to back. So for the very free
because
days,
I'm wondering, I'm wondering myself, like, how many times do I get popcorn and I'm about to go into the movie and then
you just have
well.
For the
there are days that you actually watch the movie.
Exactly. We see it and we even see another one.
Oh,
so for the very few days, we make up for some of those days where for planned activities, we couldn't execute them. So those days, we can now have maybe a stop by at the beach, a stop by at the cinema, and have a good time generally. So somehow we've been able to balance out work and play, and we've been on a good working slate.
Amazing. So someone actually locked you up in their house because he wanted you to attend to a particular situation. You know, how do you really manage some of this, you know, I like to use the word overbearing, because sometimes it's just a lot. You understand? How do you manage some really aggrieved customers, some overbearing customers? How do you get that extra patience and, you know, understanding to just, someone actually locked you up for how many hours?
For about 5 hours.
Wow.
3 hours. He left the house about 3 p.m. and came back at about 8 p.m. And his grievance was it might be difficult to get hold of me and my workmates.
Because you're saving how many other estates. No, but
since he has seen me today, all the issues.
But had he been calling?
Well, not really. You know, sometimes people just feel
this man is very busy.
Exactly.
So I've seen him today. Let me see him.
Exactly. So it was just a case of I've made complaints on this, and if I don't get it resolved today, it might be a problem getting hold of you anymore. And that was not actually the situation, because I could have deployed my team to just go there and fix it. But because of the way he spoke to me over the phone, I made myself available to come and actually see it, give my advice if it requires a certain kind of approach from the workmen and all that. And the resident just saw it as an opportunity to ensure that I finish the job. So the long and short of it is, sometimes we have this kind of clients who tend to sometimes be overbearing, who sometimes even sound very rude to you, and some of them even go as far as even insulting you if they lose their patience. But as a facility manager, you're trained to have some level of emotional intelligence. You're trained to have patience. It is something you have to tell yourself, this is what I signed up for. And by so doing, with that consciousness, you try and approach every resident or every client on a different scale. There are persons who come very friendly, you approach them that way. There are people who come very rude, very harsh, very overbearing. You still approach them with that friendly approach. You try to calm them down, you try to listen to them. Do a lot of listening. Because when people are talking and you have responses and answers to give, it has a way of turning them off. So while you are talking, be conscious or deliberate about listening to them. Get the details of the problem. Why some facility managers might have problems is because for every issue that happens, you're trying to have a defense position or justify what it is.
You put on your defense attire.
Your attire, exactly. So while you're doing that, you might be correct in some situations, but you need to find a balance. First of all, calm the resident down. Explain to them how processes are done. Because the truth is, not everybody likes following processes. If I have an issue and the management says, for an issue A, this is the procedure for resolving it. Some persons will want to bypass that process. Instead of sending an email, for example, to the communication desk sending that to the facility manager to handle. Some persons will want to bypass that process and just rant on their estate groups, call the facility manager shouting and all that. So it is the responsibility of the facility manager to at all times call the residents' attention to the instituted process. It will take a while for some of them to adjust to it, but with constant reminders, with constant engagements, you will have them eventually fall in line. So some of those residents who become too aggressive, because of your own persistence in your follow-up with them, they just naturally tend to move away from that kind of attitude and become more friendly with you. So the whole idea is treat every resident with respect, follow up with them, even when they are harsh, and for every reasonable human being who sees the approach from you, at some point they'll ask themselves personal questions. The value that
you bring to the table.
They'll ask themselves those personal questions. Why am I still being overbearing when the person involved is handling my issue, is attending to the issues?
And is engaging.
Exactly. So they will have a rethink, and of course, they will have that connection with you as a facility manager.
When that man locked you inside his house, what was going through your mind?
In fact,
at 7 p.m. it has become, it was getting dark.
Exactly.
So what was going through your mind?
I just sat on his couch and I said to myself, what if I just go to his fridge and probably download whatever is there? And he comes back and I say that, okay, that's my own way of also getting back to you. But I said, two wrongs wouldn't make it right. So I sat patiently. good enough there was power in the house. So I powered on the TV and I made myself comfortable while waiting for him.
And then your other jobs, what happened to them?
Well, I had to delegate as much as possible. I had to give out some other responsibilities, and at least I made sure I informed my team where I was. Okay, this is the issue on ground. So if you need my attention, you might probably have to wait till tomorrow based on this circumstance. And when he came back, I made him see the reason as to why what he has done is wrong. Because sometimes people don't know that what they do is wrong if you don't point it out to them. Yeah. So I was deliberate in pointing it out to him. Yes, while you have the liberty to feel offended or feel upset as to one or two issues, it's not enough for you to lock up. What if there are emergencies? What if there is a medical situation?
I can't get over the fact that he locked you up in his house.
So, but eventually he got to apologize, and we afterwards became good friends, and
so now you guys are pals.
Sure, we are just open.
After I lock you, do you remind him of those days?
Of course.
And
Probably over 1 or 2 bottles, and we talk about it, and we just joke and laugh about it, and then probably at some point he was like, oh, maybe we would have to repeat that scenario because it yielded results when it happened. I said, oh, you don't need to do that again, and we just laugh and play over it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. It's been such an amazing time chatting with you, getting to know more about your job. The truth is, people don't get to see and understand what it is that you guys facility managers do, and you know, all the rigors that you have to go through to make sure that you give your residents, especially those in the built communities, the kind of lifestyle that they have signed up for. And it is really amazing that you guys have to sacrifice more often than not to make sure that they are comfortable, and I applaud you guys so much. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us again today on this interviews. What we want you to see is what we really go through on our day-to-day activities, doing our job, rendering value, and then of course yielding productivity. It's been an amazing time, and I'd like to remind you to like, share, follow, subscribe, and join us in telling the authentic story.